Hello, I'm Mabel Chan, and this is One in a Billion. Today, we have part 2 of our special series, LifeChangers, Time to Tell. In this series, we focus on Asian philanthropists who have built a lifetime of success on the backbone of adversity.
I'm Mei-Lee Ney, president of Richard Ney and Associates, which is an asset management firm.
Mei-Lee was born in Shanghai and came to the United States when she was just 2 years old. Years later, she asked her mother for things that she wanted.
My mother said, you can have anything you want, but you have to earn the money because we don't have any.
Mei-Lee had all kinds of odd jobs before and during college, but she decided to drop out of college to keep working full-time. Why? And how did she build a fortune before turning to philanthropy with a focus on
education, diversity, not just for Asians, but all minorities? I'm particularly interested in the human condition and its dilemmas. I've thought about these issues most of my life.
In today's episode, Mei-Lee talks about how she discovered opportunities to make money and to earn that freedom to make choices. Here's our conversation. I want to start the interview by asking you how you came up with the idea to charge a fee for your service way back when you were just a little girl. For example, you would charge 10 cents to trim a bush, $2 to wash a car, and $5 to wax a car, okay? Now, how old were you and how did you come up with that?
I was 10 when it started, and I asked my mother for a pair of patent leather pumps, which all the girls were wearing to church on Sundays. And she said, you can have anything you want, but you have to earn the money because we don't have any. She was earning a living wage for our family, but was sending as much as she could to support our relatives who had been left behind in China. So I tried to think of ways I could earn money. I figured out the price list, and then I went around my neighborhood from door to door asking for work. And those were the days when no one thought about children playing or wandering around by themselves.
Were they surprised? And how did you come up with the guts to just tell them, I'm going to charge you $5 to wax your car?
Oh, no, it didn't take too much guts to tell them what I was going to charge. I would just start off by saying, hi, I am here to find out if you have anything around the house that you need done, outdoor yard work, and I'm good at raking leaves and trimming bushes, mowing lawns. And I would tell them what I could do and my charges. Some of them gave me work just to help out.
That's really gutsy. You were 10 years old. Did you tell your mom that's what you were going to do?
Yes, she knew what I was doing. It was fine with her.
Well, so how much money did you make doing these odd jobs?
It wasn't a fortune, but it gave me a certain sense of freedom. It did make me happier.
Can you summarize some of the odd jobs you were doing in high school and whether money was the key motivator in doing these odd jobs?
Yes, money was the key motivator because my mother couldn't afford to send me to college, so I realized I would have to save the money myself. When I turned 17, I got my first official job with an official paycheck as a waitress. I also signed up with temp firms, worked as much as I could fit in. One summer, I had 5 jobs at the same time.
Wow.
I know. I've had many types of jobs, including a summertime clerical job at the World Bank, typing at a law firm, cashiering at a coffee house, and a drive-in theater in the evenings. I assisted someone who was wheelchair-bound. I continued to work while in college. Between classes, I was secretary to the Dean of Liberal Arts. I worked as a copy girl on the town's newspaper, the Syracuse Post-Standard.
How were you able to find out what odd jobs work for you?
Fell into them by luck. The temp agencies gave me a lot of jobs because I was a fast typist. My job at the World Bank came about because my mother worked for the International Monetary Fund, and they had a program where the World Bank would hire children of employees of the World Bank. The cashiering jobs in the evening, I was a cashier at my church coffee house. That's how I found out about it. You just look for opportunities and follow them.
Wow. At that time, what did money mean to you? Did it feel good?
It did. It gave me a sense of freedom to make choices. Without money, it's hard to make choices.
How did your money making ability and experience at such a young age shape your mindset and shape your career choices?
Well, it really did. We had so little money at home. I had to depend on myself. I really considered money one of the most important elements of a career choice. And that is how I got into the finance business.
Mei-Lee did not study economics or finance in college, but it was not hard for her as a woman to break into the male-dominated finance industry back in the 1960s. How come?
I was hired by a brokerage firm, and I was sent there by a temp agency. This firm was coming out with a new underwriting, and my job was to type confirmations. This was before they had computers. There was no room in the secretarial pool, so they set up a desk for me next to the brokers' cubicles. And as I was typing, I was able to hear the brokers telling their clients about this new stock in the most glowing terms. It only cost $2.25 a share, and they were doling it out in very small quantities. I was typing confirmations for 25 and 50 shares, and everyone wanted more.
Wow.
I asked my mother if I could borrow $225 until the next payday. And then I went into the president's office and asked him if I could buy 100 shares.
Wow, you're gutsy.
The first thing he said was, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm the temp, and I've been hearing the brokers talk about this stock, and it sounds so exciting." At first, he was taken aback. And then I think he was amused and said, finally, okay, if you want to buy 100 shares, you can. Well, that stock went from $225 to $60 a share. And I thought to myself, if money is this easy to be made, this is a business for me.
Wow.
And that's what got me into finance. And I've been in this business for the past 54 years.
Did you go to college later in order to learn more about finance? Talk to us a little bit more about your journey to grow your skills and your knowledge in order to move up.
I attended college for 2.5 years, but the college I attended was very large, didn't navigate it as well as I could have, and also I was working so much. So after 2.5 years, I decided that college wasn't for me.
Oh, where did you go?
I went to Syracuse University.
You did not. Are you serious? I went to Syracuse.
Oh my goodness.
I went to Syracuse School of Public Communications.
Oh, that's incredible. Well, I was an English major there, and you know how big that school is.
Well, wait. I must ask you, it's a big decision to drop out of college, especially Syracuse University, a big university, a private university. How did you think through that? Who helped you think through that?
No one helped me think through that. What happened was, when I was working for the Dean of Liberal Arts, the first year he was able to get me the classes I wanted in the English department. But by the second year, I wasn't able to get into all the classes I wanted. So I called my mother up and I said, I've been working hard and saving this money and putting myself through school, and I'm not getting out of it what I really want. And so I've decided to come home.
Wow.
She said, okay, if you want to come home, come on home. I mean, she was always like that. It was like whatever decisions I made, she was okay with them.
Wow. She really trusted you because you have earned her trust through the way you've earned your money and knew how to put them to use.
Well, she trusted me, and she also knew that it was hopeless to try to talk me into doing anything else because I was just a very determined person, and she was used to that.
What Mei-Lee was determined to do next when she turned 21 was to get engaged, married her first husband, and then moved out of Washington, D.C., where she grew up, and moved to California.
I asked my boss, the president, what other firms are there out in Los Angeles that are like your firm that come out with new underwritings? And he told me Hayden Stone is well known for his underwritings. I didn't know a thing about Los Angeles. So I went downtown to the Hayden Stone, walked in and said, I'm a fast typist. Do you need a secretary? Does any of the brokers need a secretary? I'd like to work here.
As it turned out, they did. And Mei-Lee began working closely with one of the brokers.
One of them did all his own research and charting, calculating things. And when he found out I was interested, he taught me so much. And I did a lot of the background work for him to ease his workload and also learn a lot about the investment business myself. Eventually, Hayden Stone allowed me to become registered as a stockbroker. And I was a broker for 4 years.
Soon after that, Mei-Lee joined Richard Ney Associates, a very small firm with 4 people. And the president, Richard Ney, would later become her second husband.
I was hired to help him in his investment advisory business and also to help him with the second book that he was writing on the stock market. That's how we started working together.
I want to talk about your experience as a woman in this male-dominated world. What did you see? What did you experience? Were you bullied? Were you mistreated?
I wasn't bullied or mistreated. There's something about the brokerage business that is unique and appealed to me very much. They don't care about a lot of things when you're a broker. What they really care about is whether you're going to produce commissions, which the company shares in. So that if you are a hard worker and you rank near the top, then no one is going to bully you or say bad things about you. If you're in the bottom, you probably won't keep your position at the firm.
What skills did you have that make you so attractive as a hire and a keeper?
The first attribute a stockbroker has to have is as a salesperson. You have to be able to talk to people, tell them about stocks, their investments, what is a sensible investment, what is good for them, and to be able to convince them. And back in those days, brokers did a lot of cold calling, which meant calling people that had never heard of you. And I often would, after the market closed on the West Coast at 1 o'clock, I would work through the afternoon and sometimes into the evenings, cold calling and trying to build up my clientele.
So in the early 70s, you switched to the investment business. And how did you prepare for that? Education or on the job? Tell us more about that.
It was learning on the job. My husband taught me his theories about the market. He was so committed to the clients doing well. I did learn his methods, charting, fundamental research, just by reading.
Mei-Lee kept growing her investment savvy. Over time, she also spotted growth potential for herself and for the company.
There were 3 women. I became an investment advisor and also the editor of his second book. So I was the only professional woman, but the other 2 secretaries were, in my eyes, very important. His first book had been a bestseller, and the second book that he wrote was almost 800 pages.
Wow.
By the time I got to it, and I edited it down to something over 250 pages. I recognized tremendous business potential. Richard, he was not interested in growing a business, but that was okay. He had been a former actor, so he had great charisma and looked really well on TV.
Oh, really?
Yes, and at that time, there were stock market TV stations all around the country. The main ones were in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Florida, and I got the idea of publishing an investment newsletter that would marry his interests, which was writing, and his potential as someone who was good on TV. So we had TV programs on all these stock market stations around the country. and they were typically 15 minutes. They weren't long shows. He gained a great following just by talking about his stock market theories. His sincerity came through. People felt that he really cared about them, which he did.
Mei-Lee had no formal training in marketing, but she was a keen people observer and a sharp business writer.
So I wrote all the copy. We really built up a wonderful business, a very successful newsletter. At the end, we built up this following based on stock market stations around the nation.
Wow.
I learned how to do that just by observing other people who were successful with their mass mailings and trying to employ the same techniques. And Richard was wonderful. And he left me alone to pretty much experiment with things and do what I wanted.
That's great. He was like your mom. He trusted you.
Yes, he was like my mom in that way.
You mentioned that your dad passed away when you were just 5 years old. What impact did that loss have on you at the time?
He was my only parent from 6 months to 2 years when we came to the United States. And then my mother was always working. And so I was closest to him. And when he died, we were told that he went to heaven and wasn't coming back. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew he wasn't coming back. And it made me spend more time alone and also made me more independent.
Now, who told you that he went to heaven? Did you grow up in a religious or spiritual family?
We were Buddhists, my father and mother were. And when we came to this country, they were befriended by former missionaries who had been in China.
Ah.
And these were wonderful people. I remember my first Christmas, I received used toys that the church people gave us. I was thrilled.
Wow.
So we were very lucky to know them.
Mei-Lee has talked about being lucky several times, and I wonder whether that sense of luck comes from appreciating what she had that her family members in China didn't.
You mentioned earlier that your mother started making money to support not only her immediate family, but 6 other siblings and their families in China. So my question is, did you ever wonder why your mother was doing that? Did you ask her? What did she tell you?
No, it didn't seem strange that she was doing it. It was a part of life. It was obvious. They would have starved. They would have died if she hadn't done that. The communists invaded in 1949. What happened was that in 1947, the year I was born, when I was 6 months old, she had an opportunity to travel to the United States just to visit. And my father told her, oh, go ahead, take this trip. I'll take care of the kids. While she was here in the United States, she received a telegram from him that said, don't come back. The communists are invading. Try to get us out of here. And so it took her a year and a half to get us out of China, just her immediate family. She got a job with the International Monetary Fund and worked there long enough to qualify to bring her family over. Before that, there was the Chinese Exclusion Act.
The Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 was a U.S. federal law, the first and only major federal legislation to explicitly suspend immigration for a specific nationality. Before they were excluded, tens of thousands of Chinese had been fleeing poverty, natural disasters, and social tensions in China by coming to California, working in the mines, in the fields, and building the transcontinental rail line during the development of the American West. As the Chinese population grew in California in the middle of the 19th century, anti-Chinese movements began. Chinese were confined to doing the dirtiest and hardest work, and they were also seen as competitors for jobs. But the Chinese Exclusion Act was finally repealed 50 years later, in 1943.
But that was taken over by a new act which allowed 105 people per year. So there was no way anybody was going to get to this country, especially after the communists took over. It was only because she had this job where we qualified for this NS4 passport. She was the only person working. My father had been a banker. He couldn't get a job in the banking industry because of his English.
But your mother was able to get a job. Why is that?
Yeah, she had studied economics in China, and she had a very unusual father who tutored her until she reached high school. And when she did join a public school, she was way ahead of the other classmates. And he told her, the world is changing. Girls can't stay home and learn embroidery anymore. They have to go out and learn how to make a living. And he sent her to professional business colleges in China.
Oh,
So that she had skills when she came here.
wow. Including English speaking skills.
It was better than my father's skill in English. And she was very good in math. And she joined a division in the IMF, lending to foreign countries. And so you learned a lot about international politics. I remember she would come home and discuss the gold.
I do want to go back a little bit. I wanted to give you an opportunity to clarify something, which I had never heard it described that way. You said twice that when the communists invaded and they were invading, did you mean to use the word invade?
Yes, because we were nationalists. They were imprisoning people like us and taking over all our land and property and destroying our homes. And so we either had to escape. A lot of my relatives escaped to Taiwan, and only my family came to the United States. And my aunt and uncle were here already. So,
right.
Oh, everyone else in my family got trapped in China. My grandfather was imprisoned and paraded through the streets wearing a dunce cap because he had been a property owner. It was just all the land owners were treated very badly.
I wanted to ask you then about your mother supporting the siblings and the families in China. What effects did her giving away money, supporting her family in China have on you at the time?
I think the probable effect was that you share. You share what you have with people who are more needy. And also the value of money, being frugal, being careful with money. I'm still careful with money.
So that really forms your idea about making as much as you can and giving away as much as you can as well, doesn't it?
Yes, very much so. I like to give what I can while I'm alive. I know that the impact that money can have on people's lives.
What is your primary focus area of giving?
Well, basically it's education, the arts, the sciences. Education is so important to me, whether it's self-taught or something you learn in school, because it's the one thing that adds to a better future for everyone. Education is the best investment you can make in the future.
What is a good example of your most recent giving? And what is most satisfactory to you about that?
I established a scholarship at Otis College of Art and Design called the Charles White Scholarship. Charles White was one of the most important African American artists, and he was an Otis teacher, influenced many African American artists who are very famous today. And this scholarship offers not just to African American students, but any minority, you don't have to be a minority, free tuition to learn many different aspects of art making. This will enable them to have a kind of life and have the kind of careers that they couldn't otherwise have. Of course, it's for underserved students. So that's one of the important things that I feel good about. The other area that I care about is in the sciences. And I contributed to the Leonard School of Gerontology at USC. I'm very interested in health subjects and aid to the elderly. So that's been very satisfying for me as well.
Yeah, what matters most to you as a donor, and how do you measure success of your return on your investment in this kind of giving?
I would say what matters the most is how it affects other people's lives and contributes to the good forces in our world to be able to sustain those forces. The thing that's most satisfying is to get to know some of these people and learn what happens to them and hear them say, the opportunity I had for education just changed my entire life.
And I wonder how her mother raised her that changed her life.
She influenced me the most through example. She was hardworking, she was responsible, resourceful. She taught me to stand up for myself and to earn my own money if I wanted something. One specific thing she did tell me was that in making decisions, to write down the pluses on one side and the minuses on the other side and see which carried more weight.
Wow. I'm going to steal that.
I think her greatest gift to show me the value of deep and meaningful relationships and to get beyond the superficial.
During her time growing up in Washington, D.C., Mei-Lee had to deal with bullying and discrimination.
I did have a lot of bullying and discrimination because shortly after we arrived, the war with Korea started. As a matter of fact, that was one reason why my father couldn't get a job. One time he applied as a bag boy at the local grocery store, and the manager told him, not enough of our boys have died for us to start hiring the likes of you. I had kids jumping out from behind bushes to hit me on the head with their books, kids tripping me when we were playing games. One very popular ditty at that time was Chin Chin Chinaman sitting on a fence. I had that sung to me many times as I walked by.
So where did you find strength, Mei-Lee, or inspiration to overcome this sort of attacks?
I never jumped to the race issue. It's not the first thing that would occur to me every time something happened. I really thought that these are not nice people. It's best to stay away from them. Be around the people who are nice to you. And I never immediately thought, oh, it's because I'm Chinese and that's why. They don't like me for some reason. Not because they don't like me because I'm Chinese. I did not carry a huge racial burden.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always focused on what I wanted to do.
Now, at this stage in your life, looking back on how far you have come, what are you most proud of, Mei-Lee?
It's very personal. It's my relationships. I'm happy that I've been a good enough friend to other people, that I have wonderful friends in my life. My friends are my family. That's my greatest achievement.
What do you want to pass on to the world besides money? What are some of the values or beliefs that you want to pass on?
I do want to be seen as a positive influence in the world. I'm still asking myself, why are we here? What's the purpose of life? What does it all mean? I value being kind to animals, spending time with people who are kind to each other. Be grateful for what you have. Cultivate a positive attitude. Don't focus on what you don't have. Taking care of physical and mental health. Seeking help when you need it. Do what you can to take care of the planet. It's our only home. So if I could pass on a few of these things, that's enough for me.
Well, that's a lot. Plenty of nuggets of wisdom to chew on. Thank you, Mei-Lee Ney. In our next episode,
my main goal is to help young Chinese people develop their intellect and have a goal-oriented vision. I think it's very, very important to be both Chinese and global in thinking.
That is Carolyn Shu Balser, a designer, philanthropist, and art collector. Tune in to our next episode, the last Friday of October. 1 in a Billion LifeChangers special series is made possible by our corporate sponsor, Claudia Lin, founder and CEO of Legacy Maker LLC, an investment advisory company with a holistic approach to investing and managing your asset. One in a Billion is produced by our sound engineer and designer, Brian Latinowich, and our lovely theme song is composed by Brad McCarthy. Let us know if you want to join our team of volunteers, help us plan events, or pitch a story. Just go to our website, oneinaBillionVoices.org, and find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.